I thought a reading sprint had solved my book slump. However, I think it was actually Abby Jimenez. Yesterday I did a reading sprint, and for the book I decided to choose Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I'd never read her before. She was a first reader author for me, and I was obsessed with the book. I don't even know if it was the reading sprint that had made it better for me. So I thought today and tomorrow I would have a look at reading another book of hers, because I read the whole thing in one day, and every time I put it down, even for 5-10 minutes, I was getting so excited to pick it back up. Like I was almost a bit like reading fatigued. Every time I would put down a book, it would take me days or weeks to actually want to pick it back up again, or I'd like procrastinate picking it up and then end up doing everything else apart from reading. So the fact that I finished a whole book in one day, I am absolutely obsessed with. I did notice, however, that I started Part of Your World, which is actually part of her second series. So I thought today I would read The Friend Zone, which is from her first series, as my brain likes to read things in order. So now I need to catch up and make sure that I can continue the series from where I should be. One thing that I found about her books is they are so funny, and in the caption or the title of the book it does say like a comedy romance, and sometimes you're like, yeah, like they're rom-commy vibes but they're not actually funny, whereas her books I was genuinely giggling to myself because it was funny. So I'm excited to see whether she carries this on throughout the book. I feel like my reading focus has mainly been on fantasy or mystery and thriller. I kind of got into this headspace where I was like, romance is so predictable, and what's the point of reading it because you know how it's going to end? Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. So, the book that I'm starting is called The Friend Zone, and I believe it's the first one in the series, and I really hope so because I like reading things in order. So, I'll read about an hour now and then I'll come back to you. It is also 10 o'clock at night, so it might be tomorrow morning that I give you an update, but either way, I'll let you know how it's going. Okay, so it's the next morning now. I did get to page 72, which is 20% into the book, so I'm about a fifth of the way through. I am really enjoying the book. The one thing I will say is I don't know if I'm finding it quite as funny as I did Part of Your World, which is one of the main things that drew me to the book. However, I am conscious that actually a lot of the jokiness and the banter and things comes from the characters knowing each other and then building inside jokes and things. So I'm hoping that as the book carries on, we do find more of the funniness. So the main characters are Kristen and Josh. Kristen was borrowing her friend's van and she emergency braked, and then Josh has driven into the back of her. And then because of that, they've had some kind of kerfuffle, like a little bicker. Nothing too serious, but she basically was in a bad mood and said, "Watch where you're going." Obviously, because she's driving her friend's van. So they kind of then go their separate ways, and they don't realise that they're going to be part of the same like wedding party. So Josh's best friend is getting married to Kristen's best friend. So they both go to a breakfast with their friends and then realise that actually they're going to be seeing each other a lot more because Josh has just moved here. So that side of it I really like. So there is kind of forced proximity almost. So Josh has just moved to town and he's separated with his ex-partner. Kristen has a business where she makes like stairs for dogs to get up onto beds and things. So her carpenter had recently quit, and the bride had basically signed Joshua up for this, saying, "Well, you're a carpenter, why don't you do it?" So he's now working from Kristen's home, building her things because he doesn't have space in his new flat currently. Also, he's a firefighter, I just wanted to add in there. They are starting to like each other ish, but Kristen has a boyfriend who's in the army, so she is being quite funny in the sense of she doesn't want to show Josh that she could be interested in any way at all because she knows that she's got a boyfriend. So like when he turns up, she's like purposefully spilling food down herself, or she's got her hair in rollers and doing silly little things to make him think that she's not interested at all, which is actually quite funny. So there is elements of it that's funny. I just think I found Part of Her World more funny, but hopefully that will kind of come as the book continues. One thing that I will say about Kristen is I'm finding her quite tricky at the moment. I know this sounds terrible, but she's kind of giving me like pick me vibes. I don't know if that's a bit harsh for me to say pick me, but in the sense of like she was always friends with boys in school, which again is fine, but you don't need to tell everyone about it. Do you know what I mean? Or she also makes a point of like, well, you might not always like what I say, but I'm going to say it anyway. It just comes across not so genuine. It's almost like it feels forced for her to be that way. And it might be that that's like a barrier that we find out through the book, that it's just her guards being up. But yeah, the way that it comes across at the moment is kind of a bit icky for me. However, them two together, like in terms of Kristen and Josh together, I really like how their relationship is forming. They're quite playful and they enjoy spending time with each other, which you can see through what they're doing and the way that they kind of keep coming back to each other. But yeah, I'm just really hoping that I can kind of get over the cringiness of Kristen, because at the moment I'm not really gelling with her so much. I'm going to carry on reading now, and hopefully me and Kristen can become friends because she's not my favourite at the moment. So I'm now on page 154, which is 43% into the book. I am enjoying the book, but I don't think it's given me the same vibes as Part of Your World. I think that book I enjoyed quite a lot more, especially considering how far I am into the book now. It's not bad, it's just, it's not like my favourite book I've ever read, if you know what I mean. There's been good development in the story. One thing which I've found with Abby Jimenez, and I don't know if it's just the two books that I've happened to pick up, but the characters seem to like each other really, really early on in the book. And I don't know if that's because I'm used to reading slow burn, but by like 30% into the book, they like both love each other. So Kristen's character is definitely growing on me, which I'm quite happy about because I was feeling quite worried just because she was starting to give me the ick a little bit, but I kind of got over that now. I'm enjoying her character a lot more. I do really like the male main character, Josh. I like that he's kind of got this bit of a cockiness side to him, but then he's also respecting her like boundaries. There was like one time where she didn't want him to do something, and he was like, "No, I'm doing it anyway," because he could tell that she wanted him to. So it's, yeah, he's respectful of her boundaries, but also can know when to be a bit more dominant. So that's really good. So yeah, I am enjoying it. It's not my favourite book I've ever read, but I am happy that I'm reading it. I think it might be to do with the fact that this is like one of Abby Jimenez's first books that she published, from what I can understand, because it's like this series and then it's the second series which I started. So what I might do is just go back to the second series and read, I think it's Yours Truly next, once I've finished this one, and just see if that makes it any different for me. Because yesterday I was obsessed, I was so excited, and I don't know if it's quite living up to the expectations that I put, but also it's really tricky when you read a book and you've got high expectations of the next one, because 9 times out of 10 you oversell it for yourself. And like we said, it's not a bad book, it's just, it's not doing the same for me as what Part of Your World did. It's currently 1:45, so I'm going to carry on reading a bit more. I'm hopefully going to finish this today, and then I would really like to start Yours Truly, just to see if it's this book on this series particularly that's not quite doing it for me, or whether I just really liked the Part of Your World book. So I have finally finished the Friend Zone, and I think I've got some apologising to do, because at 30% I was really not, I was enjoying the book, but I don't know, it was missing something. But by the end I actually really surprised myself with this book. I think there was a few things that frustrated me. The main female character, Kristen, by the end, I was ready to bang my head against a brick wall and just be like, just stop, just stop. But it worked out obviously how we wanted it to. One thing I will say is I was not expecting this book to be as sad as it was. Like, I genuinely started tearing up. It just felt like at the end it was relentless for them. They just couldn't catch a break. The ending's quite bittersweet, really. It's sad but happy. Yeah, I'm shocked, and I can't believe that I enjoyed that as much as I did, because I was getting to the point where I didn't know whether I was going to enjoy the book really or not. Just reflecting as well, I do think that there's something that Abby Jimenez's books have taught me, and it's that I'm not that bothered about spice. I think sometimes it's nice to read a book and want a lot of spice from it. That's not a problem. But I think for me personally, like I actually do care more about the characters and what the story is rather than the spice individually. Like I'm just looking back and I don't think either of those books had much spice, but I don't feel like it's missing. Like one scene maybe in each book and then you know what they're doing. Do you know what I mean? Curious to see whether this one they like each other straight away, because I feel like from both books that I have read, they know that they like each other like really early on, or they admit it to themselves. Normally in books, you've got like one of the characters in denial about the fact that they like the other person. In both of the Abby Jimenez books that I've read, there's not that denial. They just kind of accept that they like them straight away, which is nice to see because it is quite different. But in terms of slow burn, it's almost like, I don't know, you're in love already. Do you know what I mean? It feels like I like to have that tension. Maybe it's just because I'm used to reading enemies to lovers, and these aren't enemies to lovers. So I'm going to start with yours truly now. I went into the friend zone blind, and I actually really enjoyed that I did it that way. So I'm not going to read the blurb for this. I am just going to get straight into it. It's currently 23 minutes past 6. My partner's going to be home from work soon, so I'll be doing like we'll be having dinner and things, but I'm hoping to get a good chunk of the way through this tonight because I'm just obsessed. I'm excited, but I'm only going to be reading yours truly for the rest of this video. So I'm going to pick my book up now and I'll come back to you very soon with an update. Good morning. So I did make some progress on yours truly yesterday. I'm now on page 142, so I'm just past chapter 18. This was what I was looking for, honestly. The difference that I feel from reading this in comparison to Friend Zone is crazy. Although the more I'm thinking about the Friend Zone, the more I do realise I really enjoyed it. But just the comedy, I really like the main character in this one. So Brianna, she works at the hospital where Alexis worked back in Part of Your World in my last video. So they're really good friends, and she has a younger brother called Benny, who unfortunately is waiting on a kidney transplant. So she spends a lot of her time looking after him in between working at the hospital as well. We've also got Jacob, who is another doctor who's just joined the hospital. I think it was in place of Alexis moving, but he really struggles with anxiety. One thing that I will say is I feel like it's really positive to have representation of a man with anxiety. Obviously, it's never a nice situation, but in books, I feel like there is often situations where the female character or a female character has anxiety. So to see that representation in a man is actually, I think, really good, just because I feel like sometimes there's not enough said about men's mental health. So it's really positive to see that. So we are a bit further in the book, and it's interesting because in my last clip I said that I wanted to see whether it would be a little bit more slow burn, and I feel like we are getting that. But Jacob and Brianna have been writing letters to each other because they really got off on the wrong foot. It was not a good way to meet and they weren't really getting on, so they kind of bonded over writing letters to each other, and it's really sweet to see how their relationship is starting to blossom. They're actually kind of showing up for each other in different ways. I'm not going to go into it because I don't want to spoil the book, but if you haven't read any Abby Jimenez books, I definitely recommend reading the Part of Your World series. Not that I didn't like the last book, but actually I'm just finding this series is sitting with me so much better. I'm just finding that I enjoy it a lot more. So I'm going to hopefully try and read this today. I'm meant to be packing to move house, by the way, but I've been completely sidetracked and distracted with just reading. I think for the last 3 days, all I've done is sit and read, which is lovely, but I do have adulting to do. So hopefully I can finish this today. If not, then it will be tomorrow. I just can't wait to pick it back up. I'm in that mood, which tells me that my book slump is coming to an end. Like every time I have some free time, I'm like, oh, I'll pick up a book, or I'll carry on, or I'll read a chapter, which I haven't had in ages. I've not craved that feeling of being reading a book or missing the characters when you're not bears. Yeah, I feel like this is definitely helping my book slump, and I would recommend Abby Jimenez to anybody to get out of a slump. As I've said before, I got really put off by romances, and I don't know why, because I'm absolutely loving it. I am back and I finished Yours Truly. So I really enjoyed this book. I definitely think it brought back some of the funny elements that maybe the first series was missing. So I got the part of your world feel back from it, which, I mean, probably more expected because it's part of the same series, and I really liked Brianna's character in the first book. But yeah, I just thought it was a lot funnier than the Friends list. Also, one thing that I thought was interesting is I'm so used to enemies to lovers, maybe a bit of a cocky, arrogant kind of man, somebody who's a bit more dominant as such. In Yours Truly, Brianna's doing a lot of the taking care of Jacob, which normally is the other way around. So it was quite a good dynamic to see that kind of swap over because of Jacob's anxiety and how Brianna supported him in that. It was just really lovely. I think it was done in the right way because I know before when I've read books and the man's been a bit quieter or not so confident, it's not done in the right way. Well, for me personally, I know a lot of people like that trope. It's not normally my type of thing, but I really enjoyed this, and Jacob was still lovable and confident in his own ways. The one thing that I will say is just from my experience of people with anxiety is it was kind of brushed over. It was kind of like, oh, he's met Brianna, most of his anxiety's gone now. As much as that's lovely for the story, in real life, people don't always meet somebody and all of their anxiety's gone. It seems a bit unrealistic, and I just wouldn't want anybody to get put down by the fact that if they do have anxiety and their anxiety doesn't disappear because they've met somebody that they love, then that's not how it should be, if that makes sense. But other than that, I think it was a brilliant book. I really enjoyed it. I really liked the characters and the friendship group in this series. So I'm going to say that Abby Jimenez has absolutely cured my reading slump. I'm in love with Abby Jimenez's writing from this week. So obviously now I've read 3 books in about 4 days, which I have not done in probably a year. I'm angry at myself for not reading her before, but I'm also having to fight myself to not read the rest of her books right now because I've got Just for the Summer and I've got Say You'll Remember Me. I understand she's also got a new book out, which I can't remember the title of off the top of my head, but I am so excited to carry on reading them. You'll have to let me know if you like this style of video because I'm happy to read the rest of her books in a vlog style kind of video. So I absolutely recommend to go and pick them up, especially if you're in a slump, because I don't remember the last time I felt this excited over a romance series. If you have stayed this much into the video, thank you so much for being here. I will link all of the books in the description just so you can purchase them if you don't have them already. And thank you for watching. I will see you soon for another video. Bye.